Okay, so now that we went over some of the tools, techniques I use, I'm going to go into this image and show you a few things. So as you can see here where the layers are, I've got my base layer and that has live active paint on it. And then I'm going in and I'm setting opacity at times, or other times going full, full opaque. As you can see here, there's no opacity, but I'm adjusting layer texture in various places. So here's an example where you can start to see my opacity has been turned down on various layers, and over here the leaves and the branches, all the way through various foliage and things. And as I mentioned, sometimes there's opacity, sometimes it's not. But the goal is, to build up, thick, rich color, layered texture over top of underlying paint. Again, I'm following this technique as I do with traditional painting, so I build up glazes and add on top of that, various levels of saturation, color, and texture. So let's dive in and talk about a few things. So for the foliage, you can see here it's a mixture of thick paint and texture, and that's done mainly with the roller brush and a combination of the palette knife. Everything that was put on underneath it, this area here, was done with various oil paint brushes that are just standard that come with Art Rage. And now I'm going to build up on top of that. So, I'm looking out my window and I'm, picking up, cues to the, what I'm seeing live, value and color, etc. And I'm trying to, work on, I'll work on this area right in here. So I see that there's a, some sort of like pine evergreen tree that is sitting in front of the tree behind it. So, I'm going to color pick off this image, and a lot of times I'll color pick directly off of what I'm working on, but I also do have this palette over here if I do want to pick from that. And I'm going to go up to probably one of my highest layers. Actually, no, I think I'll start right now on this layer and see how this paint reacts with the brush that I have. So I'm going to come down, pick that brush, that layer, and you can see that I'm making, quick expressive strokes. And because I'm working on a layer that already has a lot of active paint on it, it will start moving the paint around. And if it doesn't, like if I'm painting right here and you see it's not affecting that, that means that that highlight brush stroke was on another layer above it. And it's just a matter of me scrolling through and finding that layer. Now there it is right there. And if I want to obliterate that, I can go to that layer directly, start working on that. And the cool thing is, do you see that the line that goes through the brush? That's the angle that the palette knife is being held, and that's directly related to how I twist my arm and hand. The Wacom pen actually picks that up. So right now, if I make a stroke like this, it's going to come straight down. But if I want my strokes to come in sideways, my hand can do that. And I can even do things where I turn my pen and my hand, and I can start to like work in strokes that help pull out that shape of those branches and what I'm seeing. So I'm with the dark color right now because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to pull that tree to the foreground. From what I'm seeing, there's a large mass of trees behind it that are in shadow or don't have a lot of detail. So I always constantly move back and move in on my paintings. I'm looking at how things look. You definitely want to avoid working at something this close. You need to see all the relationships around the image and how they're reacting to color. I'm hitting the left and right arrow keys. That sizes up and down the brush. So I'm constantly resizing my brushes and taking a look at the paint forms and what I'm trying to indicate and how best to do that. Similar, to those of you that have painted traditionally, you've got your small fine detail brushes all the way up through larger brushes, and you're constantly working back and forth depending on level of detail. So, I'll go in and I'll do that. I'll color pick, here are some of the mid-greens. I'm seeing some of these desaturated green values that come into the tree. And I'll start hitting them with what I'm looking for. I save my highlights for last. Again, pretty much traditional painting techniques. I'm not worried about them right now. A lot of my tones that you'll see right now are mid-tone even the ones that are bright. I'm not talking about the sky either. I'm talking about this area all within here. Like right now, I haven't even gone in and done highlights. This is just me going in and hitting midtones value and various levels of hue and saturation. So, I'll continue to work on that area, and, I won't go through the whole tree right now. Areas like this that have a lot of goop or thickness to them, that's a push and pull sort of thing. Like, here I am working, some strokes on top of it, but that's a layer underneath, so you can see that it really doesn't obliterate everything. Like, there are some underlying brush strokes that show through that. And as I am starting to work up my paints, I am consciously thinking about how much of that do I want to show through versus not show through. Again, you're always pushing and pulling. You're looking at the brush strokes and trying to figure out, how you're going to build up the image and how much detail it is. And for me, that's always been a struggle because I was trained as a photorealist, sort of, pastel. I would get in there and render everything meticulously, almost like Chuck Klaus, or Close, however you say his last name. Was a very big inspiration, and I was really detail oriented, and I guess it came from early days of art school where it's like I wanted to prove to everyone that I could draw exactly all the details, and this I had the eye and the hand coordination to pull off what I was looking for. And it was interesting that as my career evolved, and I also had a painting instructor named Dennis Wojkiewicz out of Bowling Green that would come by and slap my hand and tell me I was too caught up in the details and I need to let it go, and that he would actually work on me and make me paint with my brush at the end, taped to the end of a ruler, so that I'd stay far away from it. And it was only after college that I started to really appreciate abstract art. I started to appreciate more expressionist paintings and other things where you don't have to be so detailed. It's amazing the amount of detail you can get from expressive brush strokes. I mean, look at these trees, for example. From back here, they look pretty darn realistic, and you zoom in, and they're just a bunch of paint splotches and dabs and expressive strokes. And that, to me, that's what interests me as far as art I appreciate, and that's pretty much where I'm at right now in my career with my style, especially for landscapes. So again, I'll zoom into some of these areas and to show, again, a lot of these leaves, these shapes here are very strong, and those were just expressive brush strokes to capture that with hitting shadows underneath just to pull those forms out. This area here I'm not really happy with yet. I'll probably still work on that as I zoom back. What that's supposed to be is the deep part of the forest, and I'm seeing through it, and I'm seeing the yellowish coloring of trees that are in the distance and are still kind of dead from the long winter and haven't got their green vibrancy. So that's actually, a hole between two trees. So I'll work on making that read better. That's one of the things that's catching my eye. Let me take you up and show you a few things on how I'm going to do the treetops and some of the sky coming through and getting some of that blooming effect that, is that white sky coming through the leaves. And I'll do that in the next lesson. So please come back and join me for that next lesson, and we'll go over that area. Thank you.